So,
Well, go ahead.
well, I was wondering, what are the words of wisdom that Baba gave for working together?
Working together.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here's what he gave to Arnavas. You've heard it before, where Baba said, "It is nothing to give in when you are wrong, but it has spiritual value to give in when you are right." Are you are you frozen there?
Yes, I
We're
am.
stunned.
There was a saying besides that, a saying on Erich's on a table. There was a table that had a glass um, top on it, and there were sometimes quotes that Erich um, had there that he must have liked. One of them was, "When ambition ends, harmony begins." When ambition ends, harmony begins. And I'm thinking about, harmony among people, how we relate to each other. But if someone has something that they want to be ahead of something, then you run into problems if it's not done, you know, in a natural way. There was another one. What was another one that Erich had there on his desk? To behold a single blemish in yourself has more value than to gaze upon the thousand lights within.
Mm. Say that again, twice.
To behold a single blemish in oneself has more value than to gaze upon the thousand lights within. That's a saying that was around Erich's desk or near his room. Yeah. What about Jeremy? What's going on up there in the upper right corner?
Hey Jeff, I'm good. Yeah, everything is going okay up here, thank God. Um, Nothing really to report. A lot of downed trees are all around the city.
Uh-huh.
So, but otherwise, I think people are pretty safe. Um,
So the hurricane kind of hit you fairly hard, or any flooding there?
I don't know about flooding. It was just basically, it all happened within the span of an hour or two on
Yeah.
Tuesday
Yeah.
afternoon, like between like 1 and 4, 1 and 3, and then it was over. Um, but yeah, on the farm that I work at, we had this one giant willow tree that's been there for 20 something years, and it's probably 40 feet tall, 50 feet tall, and the whole thing just toppled over from the roots. And I
Mm-hmm.
haven't been back there since. So tomorrow morning when I go, it'll be interesting to see what we're gonna do about that.
Yeah. Oh.
So, but no, everything's going well up here. How are things
Yeah.
in Myrtle Beach? How are things at the center?
Yeah, but it's all right, except it's not open, but it's,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I just happened to think, I was writing to somebody, but I happened to think of the last words that came, that Eric spoke to me. And it kind of happened in this way. Um, I used to go to, every year I'd go to India, and there was one fellow named Craig Ruff that I used to get together with, and he lived in the trust compound where the Mandali would come and work, and some of Baba's old close ones would be there, and the Westerners, and there would be conflicts and, disharmonies and everything. And I was, here at the center, and we would get together and compare notes on the problems in our respective places. I mean, I'd always wanted I felt we should be, Baba's message about harmony, amongst his lovers and harmony amongst the mandali. Baba stressed that. And we were having a lot of trouble as the staff getting a real genuine harmony. I mean, we all kind of realized it, but so I would share, what the problems that were happening at the center, and he would share the things that were happening in the trust compound. So we were doing our usual thing on a little table outside the trust compound, outside the trust office. And in the middle of it, Erich comes out the door, and he's probably answering a phone call that's down to the far end of the veranda. But as he passes us at the table, he looks down at us with kind of a mock suspiciousness, like we were a couple of conspirators. And he says, "What are you two guys doing?" And Craig pipes up and says, "Jeff's telling me about the problems at the center." And Erich looks down at me. I'm sitting there. He looks down and he says, "Jeff, are you still having problems?" And I felt it came from Baba through Erich into my lap. And I knew exactly what he was saying. What he was saying is, are you still having a problem with problems? I'm thinking that, the center should be harmonious. That's a problem. It's an ongoing problem. It should, that shouldn't be there. But he's saying, are you having a problem with problems? And after that, I have not had any major problems. There are problems that come up, but I don't have a problem with the fact that there are problems. And when there are no problems, I enjoy the problemless periods, when there are no problems happening. But I was I kind of felt like Baba wanted harmony here. So it was kind of an ongoing problem, for me, because it never seemed to happen. So anyway,
yeah,
that was that. I mean, I don't know how long ago it was that Erich passed on. I'm terrible about years and dates, but
2001.
2001. Oh, wow. So
September.
it's been almost like 19 years, and I
19.
really, I can say I haven't had, that was his last gift to me, or Baba's, and that was the very last thing that he said, and I didn't realize at the time that was the case.
Yeah, it was literally the week before 9/11, 5 days, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
It was when my world turned upside down, or right side up.
Yeah. So that was very interesting. Yeah, it's thinking that things shouldn't be happening. That was my malady.
Yeah, I mean, I relate to that a lot, Jeff, in my work too. And the funny thing is, like, I can understand why you would think, out of any place in the world, why you would think the center should be harmonious. And, in my job, I don't have any real reason to expect that things would ever be harmonious, given the nature of what I do. And yet I still expect that or feel like that's the ultimate state that we should be able to get to. And it does, like, produce a lot of anxiety and agitation when I get caught up in the fact that I can't seem to, have any power to mediate or to really, solve any major contentions aside from my own attitude,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no, Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how powerless we can be uh,
Hmm.
over the circumstances we find ourselves in. I mean, sometimes we can have an influence, but sometimes we just, uh, yeah, it's not going to happen. Our agenda.
Mm.
You know, but here's an interesting thing. uh, uh, Heather Nadell told me this. You know, there were a number of Westerners, and they all had their different jobs at Maribad and Marizon. And at 3 in the afternoon at the trust, they would serve tea. And if the Westerners happened to be in town, they would stop by and have tea with Erich and Mani. And then conversations would happen. And I don't know if you folks know Gary Kleiner. Gary Kleiner was one of the Western residents. So on this occasion, there are a number of Westerners there. Gary's not there. And Erich says, what does Gary Kleiner do all day? And the Western, the people at West says, you really want to know what Gary does all day? Yeah, what does Gary do all day? Well, he kind of collects the money in the morning for, that people stay. And he plays volleyball in the afternoon. But mainly he just kind of hangs out with the pilgrims, just talking with the pilgrims. Eric says, that's all that he does all day? They said, yeah, I'm afraid, Eric, that's all he does. Eric says, good. That's the most important thing. And see, a lot of these people, they had their little bailiwick, where they were doing all Baba's work and everything. And this guy was just messing off, just screwing around. But Erich, I mean, the personal touch is so important. Sometimes more important than the work. I mean, the external work. Yeah.
I remember the first day I arrived in Mehrabad and checked into the MPC, and I had to register with Kleiner for I guess it was one of the steps I had to go through to register. And he was really drilling into me as to what made me go there, what made me be there, and what was that about, and what was I hoping to gain, or just a series of questions. I felt like I was under interrogation. was that something normal he did? I mean, I was curious.
I don't know if he did.
Really?
Yeah, it's normal. He does that all the time.
Really?
He
Is
just
that
wants to
right,
have fun. He just wants to have fun.
Yeah, it was just, for a newcomer, it's like,
Yeah.
But
at the same time, towards the end, he makes the person very comfortable that he's at the right place, He changes the whole, thought. I mean, the question and the other way around it.
Yeah, I decided I wasn't going to trust him very, very easily.
Yeah.
It's like, I think I'll keep that to myself for now.
Yeah. Even for me, when I went for the first time, I mean, like 5:30 in the morning, he was the first person, like just enter MPC, and he was the only person over there. And like 5:36 in the morning, like everybody's sleeping, and this guy just sitting over there, and with his loud voice, he just shouts, "Jai Baba," like as if nothing is there. Only that was the first thing I remember, and interacting with him. And he welcomed us, and he just said we have tea and then go up to the Samadhi. And he went away. Luckily, he did sit with us.
Yeah. No, he was definitely available.
Yes.
All the time. In a lot of different ways. Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me, Erich gave a figure of, what is our relationship to each other and what is our relationship to Baba? And he gave the figure of going up the hill from Lower Mehrabad to the tomb. And as you go up the hill, there are people that are coming by, and if somebody wants to talk with you, you stop and you share with them. And then you proceed up a little bit further, and someone else, you have an exchange with them. He said, you don't go up there with blinders, I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm going right up just for Bob, and the heck with the rest of you guys. He kind of gave it kind of a natural way. You go up and you interact, and it slows your trip to the tomb, in the worldly sense. But in a spiritual sense, it's a larger journey that you're taking up the hill. I don't know if that makes sense. I like that figure.
Didn't happen like that for me.
What's that?
Didn't happen like that for me.
What do you mean?
I got dropped off in the hotel, and immediately the rickshaw took me to the samadhi, to the prayers.
Yeah.
I had no intermediaries.
Yeah.
It was like, whew,
They dropped you off. Yeah.
they dropped me off. I mean, I knew nothing.
No, good. But this is just, that was an interesting figure. I've told you this before, but Bao used to say, I don't know if he got it from Bob, but there are 3 types of people. One is like a peach. It's soft on the outside, but hard in the middle. Then there's a nut that's hard on the outside, but soft in the middle. And then there's a grape that's soft on the outside and soft on the inside. And like Erich and Mani, they were kind of like soft on the outside and soft on the inside. Padre was like a nut, hard on the outside. So anyway, there was this guy that came overland to India, and when he arrived, he was kind of his hair was kind of matted, and his clothes were disheveled and everything. He looked kind of rough. He arrives at Lower Mehrabad, and the guy named Tom Fortson, he says, "Where's the tomb of the Avatar?" And Tom says, "It's up the hill there." And so he kind of starts up, but Tom feels like he should come accompany the guy up there. So they start up the hill. And as they're going about halfway up the hill, Padre is coming down. And Padre is a very striking figure, kind of tall and lean and energetic. And they come, when they get within 20 feet of it, Padre says to this guy, "Is this the way you dress when you come to the tomb of the Avatar?" And the guy looks at Padre and says, "I don't let anybody tell me how I dress when I go to the tomb of the Avatar." Padre looks over at Tom Fortson and says, "I like this guy." So there it is, hard on the outside and soft on the inside. Yeah. I guess Alan, we don't have Alan here.
He's here,
Where's Alan?
down below, way down, hiding behind.
Oh.
Hey Jeff, I just got in.
Oh, okay.
Late day at work.
Oh my God. They just take advantage of you.
Yep.
Drain all your spirituality and then just leave you an empty shell.
Yeah.
For us.
Pretty much.
It's like one of those those Triceratops beetles, that are like
Oh, right.
Just the shell is left.
Yeah. How is everyone doing tonight?
I think I might have a shorter night of it myself, but I'm doing all right.
Yeah, I just saw this video of, I think it was posted on Vimeo of Baba in 1956. It's like a longer extended version. We usually see a lot of those clips of Baba like in San Francisco, or like very short clips, but I found this very long clip where I just saw images of videos of Baba, where I was just like, man, there must be a gold mine of that stuff out there that still hasn't been released.
Yeah, the 56 film taken by the Sufis
Yeah.
in Myrtle Beach, Los Angeles, well, New York, Myrtle Beach, and Los Angeles, and Mare Mountain, San Francisco. Beautiful, some of the most beautiful film footage of Baba. I like it when I don't care so much when they slow Baba down so much, that's not kind of, that's not the Baba. I think of Baba as kind of a very energetic in his movement, and rather than these slow thing. I mean, occasionally something when he's like embracing somebody, it's nice to zone in on that, but people are going to get the idea that, if they keep doing it, they're going to get the idea that Baba's just, going around in slow motion while we're going around jerky, trying to get through life.
Yeah, I watched it in the middle of the day when I was at work, and I was just pretty amazed at just the way that it kind of shifted my whole perspective in that moment. I was just surprised, because I'm like, you see Baba videos and pictures all the time, but then all of a sudden I'm seeing, video of something I've never seen him move that way specifically. So all of a sudden it just sort of opened up something for me, and I just it was like a breath of fresh air in the middle of all this.
And I remember Darwin saying that, I can't remember, it was like, how many days was it? 3 weeks, was it? Something like that. Baba hardly slept at all during that 3 weeks. And yet he always looked, bright and alive and everything, and fresh. But he rarely had any thought that Baba had slept during that entire period.
Where was Darwin staying, or like where did he stay when Baba was staying at that hotel? I forgot what hotel that was in San Francisco.
Roosevelt? No. Oh, what's the name of that? I'm forgetting the name of that hotel. I don't know where Darwin was in relation to Baba's room.
Did he only get to visit Baba like a few times during the day, or was he kind of traveling with Baba?
Yeah, they were all, I mean, any opportunity to be with Baba, they were there. He was sometimes one of the people that was at the door and ushered people in to meet Baba. But one time, I don't know if it's in his book, but Baba had been seeing people all day, and Baba was there. Darwin was there, a few other people, and they stepped in an elevator. And Baba looked very tired, and he went over and he just rested his head on Darwin's shoulder,
Wow.
Just like he was like so tired, and he just rested his head on Darwin's shoulder, like so sweet. Yeah.
Wow.
What a moment.
In the elevator. Yeah.
Wow, what a moment for him.
Yeah. But I mean, just saying, I am tired. Can I just rest on your shoulder for a little bit?
I can't imagine how he carried that for the rest of his life, or not to mention all the other moments he had with Baba.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great seeing him I could seeing him in certain scenes. It's like Baba's like talking to everybody at the same time, and all these people. I don't know. The look on their faces were like, "What do we do?" And like, "What is he saying?" And they're like looking at Erich to like, "What is he saying?" But everyone at the same time is all like, kind of like little like sheep. They're all just like, what's happening? And then Baba will walk through them and they're like, where's he going? Like, what's happening next? You know, he was just kind of like, I
Yeah.
loved how he would just randomly touch people too, or when he was passing uh, um,
Prasad.
Prasad, yeah, he would like do this thing where he would pretend to drop it and then he'd be like, oh, and then he'd be like, that was funny.
Yeah. Yeah, that was.
There's a lightness you can feel from that video. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it just seemed like I was reminded of my grandmother when she would just talk about certain historical figures. My grandmother was very strong-willed. She was very, I don't know what the right word, matriarch. She was just very strong, and she was always talking about, you know, very strong men in history, and be like, you see, he was the king. He was the king of that place. He was the king. And then I would just seeing Baba walk across like that hotel, you know, little walkway up there and all these people around him. I just like heard her voice. So like really just like, that's the king. Like,
Yeah.
I just felt that presence. It was just all in, you know, it's kind of like all happens in a moment. It's just, you know, you just get the feeling of something and then it's like all this information all at once rather than like thoughts. But
You know, one thing that you might find this interesting, you know, you see all these movies of Baba and that, but I talked with Darwin about this, that Baba led his life in time, but his life is going on in timelessness. In other words, if you could tune in right now, you could be with Baba in 1932, because Baba's life is going on right now. Sometimes when you read these books, you feel like you were there, and you could very well be there in the timeless realm where Baba led his life, besides living life here in the world of time and space.
that's incredible.
And, you know, the Ramayana was written about 300 years after the life of Ram, because Valmiki was able to kind of tune in and experience all of that. Not as something in the past, but that movie is going on in the present all the time. So you can be right there with Baba. I mean, I talked to, you know, Darwin about this because I had my own kind of experience of that.
Mm. What was your
Not
experience?
in the past. Well, what happened is I was watching, you know, I've seen so many movies of Baba. And there was a period where I just started visualizing Baba in these movies. And I just kind of played them internally, all the many movies. And then after a while, they started just going on their own. And I'm sitting and I'm in there inwardly, seeing Baba moving around and doing things, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm actually there. This is happening right now. This isn't in the past. And I mentioned that, I mean, you know, the next time I saw Darwin, I said, wow, is Baba, you know, is he living in the present? And we can actually witness, it's not like we missed Baba's life. If we could tune in on the right station, we could have a live concert, so to speak, of Baba's life.
The right station.
Yeah, in other words, that life is, and I think we do that when we, you know, when we read Baba's life or we see the movies. Sometimes we get out of the Baba in time and we experience him in the present.
Yeah.
As he was.
Well, it's kind of like never forgetting the Baba dreams we've had, you know, they're just so real as if they just happened last night, you know. For some reason, every other dream we forget, or we don't forget Baba dreams.
Yeah.
At least in my case, it's like I write them down to make sure I don't forget, but still, they're very much alive. And if you're able to make him in your inner movie theater constantly, that's beautiful. I'd like to try to learn that technique.
It takes off on its own. But, you know, people would say to Darwin, wow, you know, so you get to talk about Baba and you get to relive all these times with Baba. And Darwin would sometimes say, relive. I'm living those times. It's not reliving. In other words, he was experiencing them now.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense, but he would say that I'm not rehashing the past. This is the present.
Where we saw that very clearly is how Mara would relate to Baba's photos, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, he was there. It wasn't a photo she was interacting with.
Yeah.
And
Or Baba sitting in the chair when the women would have tea. You know, oh, you're frozen on us, Farishte.
I am. I'm just frozen.
Yeah. No, there was one woman here named Pam Lane on her first trip to India. She was there with women in the tea, and Mara would sit next to Baba in the chair, and she would be interacting with Baba, you know, as she was talking and all of that. But Pam saw Baba sitting in the chair, and Mara's movements were completely in sync with Baba sitting there. You know, so.
What do you mean?
Meaning that, you know, where she would touch Baba and hold him, or was just exactly where his body was. As she was seeing a vision of Baba sitting in the chair, alive in the chair, Mara was relating exactly to him, even though that was invisible to everyone else except Pam, who was seeing this. Kind of nice.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta look for that poem.
The poem?
Yeah, reminded me of a poem.
Uh-huh.
I'll check. You guys go ahead.
Yeah, that happens sometimes when people are relating some of the Mandali or others who met Baba are telling this story like I keep forgetting. I keep wanting to call him Tom Bombadil. That's a character from Lord of the Rings. It's Tom.
Yeah.
What's his name? Tom from. He lives in Myrtle Beach.
Riley?
Tom Riley.
Tom
Yeah.
Riley, yeah.
Tom Bombadil.
Yeah, I keep wanting to call him
I'm
Tom.
telling him that right now. I'm going to call him up. Hello, Tom. Can you give me Tom Bombadil?
I always I forget his name, and then I want to call him that. But it's because it was such a magical story. I mean, not even a story. It was just a reliving that I experienced. And I think Fareshte, you were there.
Yeah.
And that time we went and
To his house.
to his house, and he was just it was like I just was blown away. I hadn't really sat with somebody that close, relating that they had laid their head on Baba's lap and were sobbing and passed out and woke up to him, you know, in front of them. I was just like, but I could see the real. That was what was affecting me so deeply. I was just because I was seeing what he was saying so much that like it was just there, and it was that.
No.
I'll never forget that. Same with same with Chris, or sorry, Charles Haynes, and
Yeah.
I found it.
You found it. Okay, go for it.
Wow, I'm just kind of surprised at seeing the date of this poem, March 25th, 1999.
Uh-huh.
I heard Baba's name for the first time in end of 1999 to beginning of 2000, or was it end of 2000? Anyhow, here it goes.
This is, in other words, this is before you knew of Baba?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's called The Power of Divine Love, a meditation. I am floating, my breath is gone. Deep silence cradles me. Love dances around me like shimmering diamonds. Waves of sweetness permeate me. I expand in the ripples. I become one with your essence. Yet I long to touch your face, and I almost do, as I reach out to touch your image on the floor. The image reaches out and touches me, and you shimmer as the rays of the golden sun light up your face, and the diamonds of love bring you to life.
Beautiful. Now, was that actually a Baba or just a divine being?
Do not ask.
Aha. Beautiful. Fabulous. Lovely.
I think my earlier poems are better than my later poems. I forget that I wrote so many.
Yeah. No, that's wonderful. Beautiful. Julie, are you there? Hey, Julie.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Anything that occurs to you?
Well, something did just occur to me before you, and I don't know why, but it is a good story. Because it's a bow story.
Mm-hmm.
So I met Bao in 95 Silence Day in LA. And, you know, ever since then, without me knowing, because I always think I'm anonymous, he was aware of me. And I'm thinking, no, he's not aware of me because of that tendency to hide. See, I'm hiding now. So, so this goes on, and I go to his events and his talks, and still think I'm anonymous. And then finally at the trust office. Now,
Meaning a year later or something, or?
No, years later.
Years later, okay,
15 years later. There's Bao is now not in great health, and he does this thing where people, you know, gather and follow him to his room and do the chants and songs and all that for the different religions. Does anyone remember that?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So one night he's going down that little narrow passageway to get around to the back to his room, not his, you know, not the audience room. And there's this big, huge crowd, and they're saying goodbye because he's gonna go to bed. And so everyone's saying, "We love you, Bao. I love you. Goodbye. See you tomorrow," whatever they're saying. And I can barely squeak out. I say, "I love you." And he notices that because he's always been aware of me, and I haven't been aware that he's been aware of me. So I say that, and because I've never been able to express that. And there he is, and he stands up very straight and looks at me with this beautiful surprised look, you know, like, aha, your heart spoke, finally.
Aha, beautiful.
That was a good story.
Yeah, oh, very touching, beautiful. You know, I think with the mandali, because they're linked with Baba, everything around them has kind of a universal significance. I mean, just some little exchange, some small thing a few words that may seem just completely from a worldly level, but yet they can be pivotal moments just by some remark that they had said.
I think the same thing goes for, like, I was thinking about when I see that video, just like the places that Baba visited, just like why would he stop at Don's house in you know,
San Francisco, or in
I forget, well,
south of San
yeah,
Francisco.
Palo Alto. Like, why would he go there and then tell Don, like, you need to get rid of this place, you need to get rid of it? Like, he had just bought it, and he's like, what? But why did he stop there in order to just look at it and be like, you know, there's these divine imprints, like whoever's living there now, they're living in a house that the avatar was in, and I just,
Yeah.
we'll never know. I mean,
Wait, what was that? Don's house?
yeah, Don Stevens,
Yeah, I know. What about his house?
he had bought a new house, and by the time that Baba had come to visit it, Baba said, he just said a couple of things where it was like, just said this, you need to sell it, you need to get rid of it, because he just acquired it though.
Mm.
And so Don was really excited and thought there was a nice place for Baba to sit, and was really looking forward to Baba coming in and visiting. But Baba had a different idea about it, and you can see in the video it's like this very, I mean, I think Don was like kind of shaken by, you could see Baba just being like doing this some sort of it was like kind of firm, like, no. Like,
Did he Baba go into the house?
I don't know. I mean, from
Yeah,
the
I think
video, yeah, I don't know exactly, but
you mainly see him kind of going toward the house and then coming out of it, or what? I mean, not even coming out of the house, but making his way to the car.
yeah, and he's like swinging his arms. He's like doing this like qigong move where he's like swinging his arms really wide. I don't know what that's about.
Which movie is this? I gotta see this.
I can put it in the chat.
Please, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised that's the Sufi movie that it's out in circulation, because yeah, I thought they might have rights for it.
Yeah. They just posted it publicly, I guess. I don't know.
Maybe now that this COVID time is here, and you know, maybe some of the stuff is coming out of the vaults.
Yeah. Wow.
It's possible. I get that feeling a little bit.
I'd still like to know who I can speak with, just about like how I can get access to those vaults, because I think as a Baba lover, I have the right to see videos of my beloved that are very, you know, I don't know. I think I have a right. I think we all do as Baba lovers to see. I don't know who to speak to about this though. I don't know. Somebody told me that there's videos and videos of Baba, and I'm like, what's going on here? This is wait a minute. Like, what?
Well, one thing I heard in India was that there's so much stuff that it's tens of years, if not more.
What?
I mean, like a lot of years of processing to get this information out. Like they have so much unseen, and
Wow.
they just don't have the manpower. That's what I heard. They don't have the manpower to process it all. So when I took the tour of the vault in India, so I can only imagine what the Sufis may have and what India has is unimaginable. I mean, we're talking how many years of the Avatar's advent on the planet, and how many interactions he must have had, and how many different stories and footage and film and, you know, letters. And I mean, it's unimaginable. No other avataric advent has left this kind of an imprint. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, what we've seen, you know, shared.
I had no idea it was like that.
Yeah, well, it is like that. When you first start, you think, wow, there's so much about Baba, but it's just the tip of the iceberg.
That's incredible.
It
Wow.
is. It's really incredible.
Well, I wish I could do some of that work, because I know it's probably tedious, but I probably need to know some.
You would be welcome lifelong. Really, they are desperate.
They are desperate, you know.
Really?
And people who go there to actually do that work are very, very few.
Yeah.
It needs dedication and commitment. It's not easy work.
Do you have to have a certain
It's
skill
not
set?
as glamorous as it appears, but it's so worth it. I'm sure, so worth it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I do tedious, work all day, every day, anyways, and it's not. If I was doing something like that, where
Yeah.
I could put the time in.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, save up the money, and when you take a sabbatical, you could work the entire time doing that type of thing.
You know, for a while, Jeff, they were talking about doing shifts of people, groups, young people, whatever, you know, just a technically savvy, or, you know, they have people they need in the film department, in the archives, in the, literature, all that stuff. And to have like groups of people come, stay for a while, do a specific length of time service, and then rotate them out. You know, I mean, they were talking about that a few years ago when I was in India. I don't know where that all is, but it kind of
Fewer people.
fell into an abyss. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, fewer people from the West are coming.
Yeah.
To India.
Mm-hmm.
Fewer and fewer compared to how it used to be. Especially my generation. It's an ordeal. Exhausting. You know.
Wow.
Hey, before I go, I had one thought. I mean, I remember Padre was talking about obedience to Baba, and he, I think he said, "You see that rock? If Baba wanted me to bring that rock, I'd bring it to him. Whatever Baba wanted, I would just do." And my feeling about the Mandali is they knew that everything Baba does is done from divine love. And they know that so completely that if Baba says anything or it disapproves of anything, it's all coming from divine love. So, and Baba's only here, he's here on a very tight schedule. And he can't be explaining, well, I need you to pick this, I need you to do this because of this and this. He needs people around him. I'm just talking about the Mandali. They just do, they don't ask any questions, they just do, because he's got to get from this country, that country, he's got to, meet with those people, and he just needs the people around him, the Mandali, they will just do it and not ask questions. Not that because they know that they know with 100% conviction that whatever Baba does or whatever he asks is only coming from divine love, and it's for the benefit of the whole universe. And now we kind of have the privilege of saying, well, Baba, why is Baba asking that? Or do I have to do it now, or
Yeah.
But they just knew, and when you get to that point, then you find yourself there with him, and you do. There was a scene back in the mid-20s where, for some reason, I can't remember the circumstances, but Baba wanted one of the Mandali, I think he asked Vishnu to hit him with this ruler. And, you know, he just said, I can't do that. You know, I can't hit the master. So Baba asked some other people, you know, and they just couldn't do it. They couldn't hit. You can't beat your master with a, you know, with a yardstick. So finally, he called this one of the other Mandali named, who the Mandali kind of, Baba had a certain favoritism for this one Mandali member during a period. And so Baba called that one. His name was Arjun Superkar. And Baba, you know, called him from where he was working and said, okay, I want you to hit me with this yardstick. And he just took it and hit Baba without question. He didn't have any, you know, any hesitation. Baba said, you know, this is how you should be. And one time Vishnu, he somehow, he didn't have his sandals and he had to go down maybe to the village, and like he didn't have any sandals, and Baba said, take my sandals. And no, Baba, I can't wear your sandals, you know, you're the master, I can't wear your sandals. And Baba says, I'm asking you to take my sandals and go down to the village. But he wouldn't do it. You know, that's the training where, you know, Vishnu later on in life would never do such a thing, even if it violated his ideas of how you revere a master. If you know, if Baba says slap me, you know, you slap him. There was one scene in New Life where there was a gathering in Mahabaleshwar, and everybody was supposed to come in and the doors are supposed to be closed immediately. But what happened is they were a little bit slow in closing the door because Gustaji had to piddle, and he's an old man, so they delayed closing the door, and then a couple of uninvited people slipped in. And they came in and they bowed at Baba's feet. And Baba wasn't allowing anybody to do that. So Baba got very annoyed with, I can't remember, maybe it was Vishnu, let these two people in. And Baba got angry, but in the New Life, you were supposed to control your anger. So he asked somebody, now that I have, you know, expressed anger, I need to be punished. So he called one guy up to slap him. And he just kind of tapped him a little bit on the side of the cheek, and Baba was upset. You know, you're supposed to hit me. So this guy, Minu Karas, came up and really slapped him in such a way that his whole face was red with the slap, but Baba just beamed. You know, but he, a long-time disciple of Mandaliya Baba, and he just did it just exactly how Baba wanted it. But the other guy, you know, it was too much to slap Baba, you know.
It's kind of a reminder of that famous old story about the king master, perfect master, probably wanting his people. He had a boil or something on his leg, and he said it was poisonous, and would you know that story where there was poison in that boil, and he wanted people to suck it out, snake poison or something, and nobody would dare to go do it. And then this one disciple, who was that?
I think it was Ramdas and Ayaz.
Ayaz, yeah.
Not Kalyan, right?
Or Kalyan, maybe it was Kalyan.
Kalyan, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes, and then it turned out to be mango juice or something.
Yeah, he wrapped he said whoever sucked it would give him relief, but he would die because of the abscessed wound. And
it was in his knee.
Yeah, in his knee. And
Jeff, you were telling about that story in Mahabaleshwar during the New Life, and I feel it continues when Baba, on the last few days of his, a New Life continues, where in Merazad, you know, where the pigeon, I mean, before reaching Merazad, he stays one night before in the something like a dargah, and the pigeon story is there.
Yeah. The
So
Imampur
again,
monk.
the same, and the same thing gets repeated, but this time the whole Malli were prepared to just surrender and listen to him.
And they beat him with their sandals,
Yeah,
which is the
yeah,
highest insult.
yeah, and after that they spit also. He tells them to spit
Yeah.
on. You know the story?
Yeah, no, you got it there. Well, it was that they were in one of the 3 rooms of this mosque. And in the middle of the night, Erich was on a little blanket in front of the door. In the middle of the night, they heard some rustling. And, you know, continued and everything, was disturbing Baba. And Baba told, you know, to check it out. And so there was a ledge in the room where Baba was, and Baba went over there, and there were some fledgling birds and everything. And Erich had taken his hand in there and to grab these things. And Baba says, throw them out. And then Baba clapped, said, no, don't do that. I would have disobeyed the principles of the new life. I should not have done that. Tomorrow, you know, that the next day, Baba had them punish him for having threatened the life of these fledgling birds. Baba said, I should not have done that, right? That's the story. And Baba said, had them beat them with their sandals and spit on him. I mean, basically, that's like renouncing religion and even what it means to obey, what it means to devote yourself to a master, to love your master. He's even breaking that. Here you're beating you're beating your beloved. That's probably the most disagreeable thing to the heart that you could possibly do. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I heard Erich talking about that, but he was saying that he had to kind of disconnect or not really like have his heart affected by it, but just to do what the master said.
Yeah. Incredible.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think I could do that.
Yeah, they couldn't do it halfway. They had to do it full measure.
Wow. Wow.
Oh.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and these have, I'm sure these have ramifications worldwide, you know, these little incidents. I mean, if we could really trace them out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, if he's the axis of all creation, then every interaction, everything that happens is affecting everything, everywhere.
Yeah.
All at once.
I like what you said about he's on a tight schedule.
Yeah. 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 No, I mean, you just have to reach a point where you're going to help him. He knows what he's doing, and anything you can do to help him. And there's, you know, I once asked, this is kind of telling. I once asked Marwan Jesawala. He would spend 1 month at Merazad. And he would be there in Mandalay Hall with Baba for days and days, sitting in the hall. And I said to Marwan, you know, what were the thoughts and feelings that were passing through your mind, you know, when Bob would be there and with these different sessions, you know, reading correspondence or speaking or listening to poetry. What were the kind of things that were going through your head or through the feelings that were going through your heart? And he said he didn't feel, or he didn't have any feelings or any thoughts. His whole focus was on Baba, away from himself. He had vacated himself and he was just focused on Baba. He had no thought, was not aware of any thoughts or feelings. Can you imagine? I said, wow, really, Merwan? You didn't have any thoughts or feelings? I mean, that you were aware of? He said, no. So the people that were gathered around in Mandalay Hall were people who were so into Baba that they had left themselves behind. What an incredible accomplishment. Yeah.
Well, his presence kind of commanded that, I imagine.
Yeah. But, you know, a lot of people, though, when they met Baba, they, you know, they remember what they were thinking and feeling, and they can give you details of all of those things. But for them, they were just moving with Baba, whatever he wanted. Eric said you had to be not just on your toes, you had to be on the toenails of your toes. You had to be that attentive to whatever whim or mood or tremor or, that Baba expressed.
That's amazing. That's profound.
Yeah, not to miss a cue. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean by like some of these places that I watched Baba visit. I'm like, I had the thought like, he's on a tight schedule. Like he really like, but what is he doing here? Like that was the thought. Like, why are you going to Don's house, and then telling him no, and then you're stopping over and you're like touching this kid's head, and like, why are you visiting the park and this tree? It's like this can't just be for like a leisure. Even though I'm sure a lot of people who were on the outside were like, who's this gentleman? And oh, he's just visiting Muir Woods and Coit Tower, and that's nice. Or you know, like, but it's got some relevance to it. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure he doesn't even need to think about it. He just knows everything. Same way with Mara. I think everything that Mara did came out of divine love. And you can't measure it in terms of whether she knew, could read people's minds or all of that. Everything, when things are flowing from love, you could be totally ignorant and it would still, divine love would get expressed when that's flowing through.
Yeah, you know, somebody was saying that Mara said something to them that really kind of broke the way that they looked at themselves, or it brought up a lot of internal trauma in that moment. But I think love can be like that dagger that like cuts into the wound to let the pus out, you know, to let all that gunk come up to the surface. But it can be cutting. It can be,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, yeah, no, truly beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, Jeremy, I hope you made that dessert for us because we're getting hungry here. It's kind of late.
I gotta still make dinner here.
Oh yeah.
Dinner.
What dinner?
Yeah.
Dessert now.
I got dessert, Jeff, but I don't think you want to see it.
That's too delicious, too tempting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, well, let's I guess, Marge, are you still around? Are you?
She's been quiet all night.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm going to head out. Great to see you. Maybe one last Hafiz.
Yes, let's see what he has to say this time. I totally went to a different folder. So do you want to pick a number? Should I pick a number? Should Alan pick a number?
Yeah, Alan, you got a number, or Jeremy? Jeremy, come up with a number.
What's the range?
Well,
Between-
it's kind of confusing. The ones I'm confident about are 1 through, let's say, 1 through 78, and the rest are kind of random. I haven't refined
Yeah.
them. So
14.
14.
14. All right. As confident as one can be about Hafez translating. Oh, Baba. All right. We departed. You know it, as does our mournful heart. Where will the river of our bad luck take our destiny? With the tears I shed from my lashes, I wrapped your tresses in gold, waiting for a messenger to bring me a greeting from you. With a prayer I came, and with a prayer I am leaving again. May loyalty be your companion and God our helper. Even if the whole world should pity you and me, our juror will provoke the mercy of harm in them all. Even if the whole world should pity you and me, our juror will provoke the mercy of harm in them all. I swear on your head, if the whole world should gather together around my head, they cannot remove the thoughts of you from my mind. The wheel of life is making me wander aimlessly in every direction. You know, it is getting jealous listening to our soulful conversations. Since we incessantly praise your beautiful face, the rose petal has become ashamed of itself, seeing the page of our notebook. May that day come soon when my beloved safely arrives. Happy is the day when my darling comes safely into my embrace. If anyone asks you, where in God's name did Hafez go? Tell them he left crying and went on a voyage away from our reach.
Beautiful. Hey, we got even Marge.
Beautiful. Hello, everybody.
Yeah,
Good night, Marge. How are you?
yeah.
Good night.
I mean, good night as in hello, good night, not good
Hello,
night.
good night.
Well, good night, hello. Okay, well, I'm gonna head off into the Beyond Beyond. Yeah,
Thank you, Jeff.
yeah, thank you. And beautiful, I mean, those translations I can understand, I mean, they're intellectually comprehensible, which is the first stage, so that my heart can actually dive into it. Yeah. And so many of the translations, I can't understand them because of the language is, that there just isn't the clarity of meaning, you know, or imagery or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, Farishte, I appreciate all your hard work.
Yeah.
And I've loved y'all's discussion tonight. Thank you.
Oh, good. We're just, you know, just hanging out and, I mean, remember that, that what Eric said, if his lovers would get to, how to keep Baba becoming a religion. Eric said, if his lovers would get together in small groups and share their mystical experiences, share their inner experiences, it could be averted.
Yeah, this must carry on, Jeff.
Yeah. So these little things, this is, you know, this is We could kind of keep ourselves entertained for 700 years. We can.
All right, Jai Baba.
Jay Baba,
Jai
you guys,
Jai-
Jeremy and Mark,
you.
Julie,
Hey,
love
Baba.
to Joan and Conrad.
I
Thank
will.
you.
I'll have you share your story again about your dad, but
And my mom.
and your mom. Yeah.
My mom's very cute too.
Oh, and Jeff, we had a guest. I don't know if you noticed, Dennis has been here, hopefully listening.
Well, his dogs don't seem to be kind of. I think that's when he was up in the Antarctica or something, you know, or they've been
Yeah.
frozen.
We probably put him to sleep.
All right, folks.
All right.
Yeah.
Jai Baba, thank you.
Jay Baba Natharan.
Baba.
Thank you,
Dinku.
Jeff. Thank you,
Yeah.
Jeff. Thank you, Farishta John. Beautiful.
Thank you, Jai Baba. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Baba, we love your poem.
Yeah. And Dinku, always nice to see you. Okay.
Thank you, Jeff. Always lovely and a pleasure to be here and listen to all your stories.
All right. See you, Alan. Good night.